What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Drachmas and Denarii podcast. As always, I am your host, Sam, joined today by co-host Antoine. Antoine, how are you doing?
Hey Sam, I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's a little bit rainy here, so I'm sitting on my porch right now. I've got a hot coffee and some food, just sort of relaxing with the weather.
Sounds very nice and cozy for a Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about Australia, but we've got Labor Day coming up here, so I've got a long weekend too. I'll be off Monday, which is nice.
Oh, I don't think we have anything like that anytime soon, but I'm just coming off a mid-sem break for uni, so definitely feel the vibe.
Ah, yeah, very nice. I just started back up last week. So yeah, I got papers and whatnot, and the stress is starting to build.
Fun.
Yeah, always is. Yeah, we've come together today to talk about slabs with ancient coins and sort of discuss the pros and the cons. I think it can be a complicated issue, especially with, I would say, more modern focus collectors, world coin collectors, and U.S. American coin collectors. They sort of come from a slab background. I think oftentimes there's confusion with how slabs translate to ancient coins, and more modern collectors sort of assume an easy transition from the grading system they use and the slab system they use to ancients. And I think we're kind of here today to discuss how that's not the case and how ancients may not necessarily translate well to slabs. But there are pros and cons, and we're going to go into all of that today. But yeah, I've got heritage auctions pulled up here. I think we can just start out by looking at sort of how they sell their coins. Heritage is the #1 slab seller for ancients. Besides them, I don't know any company or firm that's pushing slabs. I don't know, Antoine, if you know of any other firms, but in my experience, it's only been Heritage. I mean, other firms will sell them, but Heritage goes out of their way to sell only slab coins, more or less.
Yeah, I think you're right. Heritage definitely makes an effort to sell slabs. I've seen quite a few at Stacks. I think their features, they try to slab most everything, and then the e-sales, it's a bit of a mix. And then you get the occasional slip through at CNG. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think we can go and just look up a coin type. I think the Solidus, that's always a fun one. You've got that late Roman, early Byzantine gold coin, lots of variety, and you've got different strikes, wears, issues. You can see here with Heritage, these are some current lots up for sale. And just to be starting out kind of basic, they've got different grades. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume our audience is familiar with it, but just briefly we can go over the idea of a slab. It is a plastic holder in which the coin is secured, and you can't open it. It's going to be sealed unless you break the slab. So once you have a slab to keep that official grade, you've got to keep your coin locked inside, and it provides a little bit of information about the empire the coin was struck in, usually the ruler, the date, the denomination, weights, and metal type. And sometimes, like this one, it's got a provenance, the historical scholar collection. Sometimes you'll see if it's a plate coin, it might have where that coin was plated in the book. And then it's also obviously got the grade. I'm not too familiar with the system, but I'm pretty sure you've got fine, very fine, extra fine, almost uncirculated, and mint state as a 5 grade. And you can have choice, which sort of indicates that something is like half a step above a normal grade, and then a star, which is likewise indicating it's an exceptional issue. So if you had like a very fine coin and you had a choice very fine coin, that choice very fine, in theory, would be better than the normal very fine. And they sometimes, for ancients, do strike and surface. So strike indicates how well the coin was struck with dies. Is it a flat strike, a sharp strike? And then the surfaces, are there any issues like cleaning scratches or whatnot? And then sometimes these coins will issue, or they'll label a problem with the coin. Like this one right here we can open up. It's got the clipped label on here. So the coin has been cut down in antiquity, and some metal has been cut off that rim. You can see here at 4.34 grams, that's about 0.15 grams underweight. So I guess, yeah, we can kind of just go over that, but the idea of the slab is it is a way to sort of have uniformity with ancients. You want to have a system in which you can sort of compare all coins by grade, which I think we can argue about the merits and discuss that too, but just to kind of give an overview of what slabs are, just the idea is to have uniformity in grade and the ability to easily and quickly compare different coin types based on the slab.
Yeah, I think you've covered that really well. The only thing I would add to that is a common argument I hear and see online all the time for slabs, especially with ancients, is, this gives you a chance to have that second opinion on on authenticity. A bit tongue-tied today. And that is an argument that we can get into a little bit later, but one of the big differences with NGC's Ancients division compared to their modern and I guess medieval coins is they don't actually provide that guarantee of authenticity. They don't back you up on that. I think that's just one of those things we can sort of unpack a bit later. Where are you
Definitely.
getting any bang for your buck there compared to an auction house? Maybe not, maybe.
Yeah, so I would say like number one, I think the best starting point for slabs is the grade itself. And with the interesting question, I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but I think it's valid to ask, can you even grade an ancient coin? And what does that look like? Because unlike modern coins, every ancient coin die was carved by hand. So you can have a similar issue, the exact same issue, with two very drastically different coins of artistic merit. You can have one that just looks god awful, it's horrible, crude style, bad lettering, and one that is a work of art signed by a Greek master in a Syracusan democracy. You can pretty much get extremes with ancient coins in within one coin type, great dies and poor dies. And I think that in some ways, at least for me, I don't think grading necessarily holds up because, in my opinion, style can oftentimes be more important than the actual grade itself. For a lot of issues, I would rather have a fine style worn coin than I would a mint state poorly carved coin.
Well, and I think you touched on this with how they have the number system for strike and for, I believe it's surface, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that just goes to the heart of the issue where ancient coins are not all uniform. If you give a coin, I mean, first of all, the grade of MS or AU is, it feels extremely arbitrary talking
Yeah, it
about
does.
something that was made 2,500 years ago, right? But then how do you differentiate between a good die and a bad die? How do you differentiate between a good strike and a bad strike? On center, off center? Is it a large flan, a small flan? How nice is the die? They've got all these extra variables, and NGC I think have tried to account for a few of them with the strike. I don't know if the strike takes into account centering. It
I
might,
believe
I'm
it. I
not
believe it
sure.
does.
Okay. However, they have the fine style designation, but even with that, I've noticed looking at like NGC population data for a certain type, you can go back and the exact same die, in some instances it'll get a fine style designation, and in other instances maybe it's a little more worn, maybe it's just it was slabbed 2 years earlier and it doesn't get the designation. So where do you get the that uniformity there then?
Yeah, agreed. I think part of the issue too, yeah, I guess in my opinion, the way the ancient coin slabbing system started was there was a system that worked for modern and world coins, and from a modern and world coin background, this system was transposed onto the ancient collecting system. I think part of that problem is it's not a system that was designed for ancients. The original purpose was to work with modern coins, and I think grading works wonderfully with modern coins because you've got machine cut dies, every die is the exact same, so you can very easily see wear and details like that. And you're not going to have to worry about style. Every coin is the same. It doesn't matter if it's worn, beat up, cut from the San Francisco mint or from the Philadelphia mint. It's going to look exactly the same. Whereas with ancients, I think style is a much more pertinent issue. And for that reason, you can't really take a modern grading system and put it onto ancients just because you've got so much variety in style.
I think that really cuts to the heart of the issue as well, in that slabs for ancient coins, in my opinion, I think they've really been started as this trend to make it easy for people who are used to modern coins, modern and like medieval world coins, to be a gateway for them to get into collecting ancients, or maybe to revolutionize the way ancients are collected to match that more closely, to tap into that market, and obviously the extra capital that's available there. We might get into that a bit more later, but I really love being able.
Hey, you're cutting out here a bit. For the last
Oh,
10
Sam,
seconds or
can you
so, I
hear me?
didn't. For the last 10 seconds or so, you were cutting out there.
Oh, where did I drop off?
We were talking about how we wanted to look at sort of the way that the ancient system and modern system compare, and then you said, like, we'll go into that later, and then right when you were transitioning, you cut off. So I'm not sure where you were going.
Yeah, we might just. That's all right. We can just
Yeah.
move forward.
Well, yeah. I guess maybe we can start out with just the idea of, so you want to grade an ancient. What does that look like? What is that process? Because I think you've got kind of two sides of that hobby. You can either buy a pre-slab coin, or you can go out and slab your own coins. And I think, in some sense, I mean, being an ancient coin collector, I don't like slabs. If I buy a coin in a slab, I'll break it open, but I don't mind. I don't mind purchasing a coin in a slab because I can break it back out. So I think the more intensive side of the hobby is going out to slab your own coins. Because I think most collectors have dealt with slabs, and they may keep their coins inside or not. But when you actually go out and slab your own coins, you have to pay that fee and eat that cost of the service yourself. Whereas when you buy a coin in a slab, it's sort of factored in the price that you pay. So maybe we can look at the actual encapsulation process of NGC and kind of see NGC is charging X amount for you to slab your coin. Well, what is the benefit you're getting out of the money you pay them? So we can go here. I think we're going to look at NGC today because NGC is the predominant company that grades ancients. I don't think any other company even deals with them. So I'm pretty sure it's just NGC. I think PCGS does medievals. They don't do ancients, though.
I think ANAX does Slab, but I don't know how well regarded their service is. I don't think it's very well regarded in general.
Yes, we can go here and look at the NGC website. And yeah, so I guess it was started, or it's led by David Baggy. I mean, he is I would say, an authority in the field. I would disagree with his opinions on slabbing, but he at least, I think, lends some credibility to the slabbing service, and I would trust his opinion on a lot of coins. I don't agree with the system he uses, but I think he does lend expertise to NGC.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely an authority in the field. And yeah, I can understand why he would be a proponent of slabbing. Not that I necessarily support his methods myself.
Yeah, I don't see, let me see here, submit maybe. I'm trying to find the fees. I think it was $35 if I recall correctly.
Going off of memory, I think they have a reduced basic tier where it's $25. You don't get the strike or the surface grade. You just get AU, XF, etc. I believe it's $45, 40 or 45.
Yeah, you're right. So we've got economy, $28, standard, 48. And I guess you can pay more for an express service. So I'll say we'll go ahead and just look at the standard price. I mean, I think if you're going to get it slab, most people just opt for the middle road, strike, and surface. So you're going to pay $45 for your coins to send them off to a company. You're going to not have access to them for a couple months. So that's what you're paying in. What do you get back out of it? Your coin returns, it's put in a slab and graded. But I think part of the folly of the system is, even with modern coins too, the grades aren't always the same. You can submit the same coin multiple times to NGC or PCGS or wherever you want to go, and you'll receive different grades back every time, which I think sort of questions the validity of the whole system. If you can interpret one coin as having multiple grades and the same company doing that, does not sort of question and highlight that they don't have a certain system put in place? I wouldn't trust a framework that gives a different grade for the same coin. I guess, like, at what point, on whose authority are you relying to use that grade?
I think that's the thing with modern coins. It seems to be a bit more cut and dry, where you have I believe it's the Sheldon scale, 1 to 70 or 0 to 70. That makes it a bit easier to assign a number, but you obviously can't apply that directly to ancients. How do you differentiate between a 68 and a 69, for example? Yeah, even with grades in general, I think this really begs the question, why do we care about grades in the era of digital photography and even videography at this point, which quite a few auction houses have signed up for? You can see what a coin looks like in pretty well-lit conditions at high magnification. You can see what it would look like in hand, depending on how well they take the video, the lighting, everything. So I don't know that you really need a letter or a number grade at that point. Yeah, thank you for pulling that up.
Yeah.
Nomos also has videos, I think, in CNG recently as well.
So I'm not sure. I believe every lot had videos here, right? So this is NAC, NAC, Numismatica Ars Classica. They are one of the premier auction houses in the world. I would say they probably are the premier auction house. And so what they've done recently is to provide video clips of every coin they're selling in hand. That actually allows you to see the entire coin, the rim, the surfaces, toning, whatever you'd like to actually look at, you've got that now. And I think especially in the age of online bidding where you can't see a coin in hand, this video is pretty much exactly the same. I mean, I don't think that me going in person and viewing one of these coins would give me any more insight than the video I'm seeing right now.
No, in my personal experience, it wasn't this auction, but it was another NAC auction last year. I bought 6 coins and they all looked the exact same as the videos.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of the point, right? Like that's the nice thing. You can get the video and you know exactly what you're getting. There's no unpleasant surprise because you've seen it in hand and at multiple different angles.
Absolutely. It takes that power and it puts it back in the consumer's hands, in my opinion. You don't need a dealer, you don't need a representative, and you don't even have to email them out of the blue and say, hey, could you send me a video of this lot, please? It's very, very empowering, I'd say.
Yeah, and I guess one of the main selling points of slabs is to have that uniformity, the idea that you've got a second authority which verifies your grade, the grade of your coin, the condition it's in. But I think with ancients, does that even matter? Like we've kind of discussed this a little bit, but I think we should maybe circle back and hit on it again. I think the actual preservation of a coin doesn't matter so much as the coin type and the artistic merit of it. Like I would much rather have a worn coin with nice dies than I would a nice coin with poorly executed dies. I think that the actual style matters more in ancients than anything else, because I've seen plenty of worn coins that are very pleasing and plenty of mint state coins that aren't. And I just like with the modern coins, that's not a thing. So there's a lot of disconnect between the modern collecting field and the ancient collecting field, where a modern collector just can't understand how a lower grade coin could be better and more appealing because every die on modern coins is exactly the same, whereas in ancient coins those dies are different. And because everything was done by hand, I mean, you've got mint workers in ancient times of varying skill who are executing these dies, and you might have one very talented person and maybe someone who's new at their job who's not very good, and that can lead to quite a difference in how pleasing those dies look. You just sort of got a discontinuity there between moderns and ancients where, because not every die is the same, the actual execution of those dies becomes a lot more important. And I would say it's so important to the point where grade no longer matters as much as the actual die itself and how well that was cut or carved.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. I think the other thing is you have to factor in how the grade has accumulated. So is it evenly worn? Is it just on the high points? Is there an area where it's flat? Like how has it been worn down? Because that can make a big difference on what the end result looks like.
Yeah, I think so. I just pulled up on Google Punic tetradrachms. I think we can look at some of these and just sort of show how different these coins can be. Even though all the coins you see here, besides the bottom left, are the same type, the dies actually vary considerably. And Antoine, just to make sure, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see
Okay,
your
great. Yeah, I
screen.
just wanted to verify before I kind of talk about the style here. But we can pull up, so this is a Cicelo Punic tetradrachm from Antilla. You can kind of see here, if you actually look at the bust of Alexander, I'm going to go one coin over here in a sec. But if you look especially around the face, the eye and the nose and the mouth are quite distinct. I'd say you've almost got a little bit more of a crude style here. Like especially around that mouth, it's just sort of stylized. It's not the nicest. I mean, obviously it's a pleasing die, but when you go over one coin to this example, you can see this Heracles here has got a much nicer face, I'd say. It's a lot more pleasing, a lot more well executed. And even though I would say this coin is more off-center than the other one, and I'd say more worn, I think it's a better coin overall.
See, this is one of those funny instances where who is judging the style and how do you assign the style? And again, there's two dies, right? There's two
Hmm.
faces. I actually prefer this one. I
Okay.
prefer it. It has a more Punic look to the Heracles, but the horse I would say is absolutely like a far worse execution on the horse. The reverse die, not that good. Kind of sucks. This
Yeah, I guess
reverse die, impeccable
I would
on the
have to
second
disagree.
example.
I think the more Punic they look, oftentimes, the more stylized they become, the more they deviate from that traditional sort of superior Greek artistic merit. So I would say I do like Cicelo Punic, but I do prefer the more Greek Punic issues than I do the actual pure Punic coins. But once again, this goes to show that even within one coin type of one city-state, that you can actually have a lot of variety in the dies and preferences. I mean, you and I could collect the exact same coins, exact same types, and buy completely different dies based on what we prefer and the style we like. Which once again goes to show, I mean, we could probably drill down into these two specific dies if we wanted, but if I'm looking online and they both say NGC, choice, almost uncirculated, what does that actually tell me about the coin? I'm not gaining much information at all from the grade itself. I need to know the dies of the series. I need to know the style. I need to know what would make a coin stand out in a good way or a bad way. And just having a simple statement on strike, surface, and preservation doesn't give me any of that.
Well, and I think this goes back to the whole purpose of grading. Grading was wonderful in, 1700, in the 1800s, up into the early and mid 1900s, where it was expensive and time consuming and difficult to take pictures or take casts of coins and then take pictures of those and put them all into a catalog. So you'd
Mhm.
have the nicest coins worth the most money that would get a cast made and then have a picture of that, or in some cases a picture of the coin itself taken, and you'd put that in the catalog, usually at the back, and you'd have a description for every other coin that just said, oh, it looks like this, it looks like that, it looks like this type, and this is the grade. And then maybe comments on the surface porosity and how off-center it is, etc. Um, if you look up Sotheby's on archive.org, you'll get some really good examples.
On
But yeah, you'd
archive.org.
absolutely, yeah, archive.org and Sotheby Wilkinson Hodge should pull some good stuff up.
What was that?
But
Sorry.
Sotheby, Wilkinson, and Hodge, they're pretty
Okay.
active in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Hope I spelled that right.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully we can get some old plates pulled up here and an old catalog. And just kind of show why this mattered.
I think it's the search bar at the top, in the top right corner.
Okay, that would make sense. We migrate on up, hit enter. Yeah, I feel like that's very important to sort of, I'll just do Sotheby and see what comes up.
Okay, I might try looking on my computer and see if I can.
Alright, yeah.
I know I have a couple old catalogs.
Well, here we go. I've got one right here, 1892 to 1909, Sotheby, Wilkinson, and Hodge. I'm not sure if this is, it's not a catalog. Alright, yeah, but either way, I guess kind of going into the history of ancient coins, here's an older catalog too we can look at. A lot of times these lots aren't going to be photographed, and for that sense, that reason, it's important to have a grade because you couldn't see what the coin looked like, so you'd have to trust the attribution of the firm, whatever they would say. So you can see here, these aren't quite ancient, but we've got listings of coins, and you can imagine in this time era, you're not going to have a photograph, so all you see is what this firm says. Joseph I on taking of Landau, a medallion. And oftentimes they give a grade. I'm not sure if that's what the number here on the side is, but all you would have to go off is that description. This is a pre-internet, pre-even photographed era of collecting, so that's why grades sort of came about, was to help a buyer understand the state of the coin. But I think, as Antoine has pointed out now, and especially in modern times with the digital age, with videos like we showed at NAC, having a grade doesn't help you anymore because you can better determine how a coin looks like in your own opinion by seeing a video than someone else giving you a grade. And I think we can go back to heritage here. I just want to show, let me go to the archive here. I'm not sure how I get that. Hold on, view past sold items. I think Heritage, in my opinion, has the most overpriced coins of any dealer across the market right now. I see more overpayments on slab coins at Heritage than I do at any other firm. Would you say you agree with that?
I think I would agree with that assessment, yeah. On average, definitely the highest prices.
Yeah, what I like to do is just put in any coin type you want. Because we looked at the Solidus earlier, I'll stick with that. I just do highest first, and you will see ridiculous prices. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. And every time it's mint state, but what does that even mean? So some of these first coins are going to be obviously medallions and whatnot. I think those prices are arguably justified because it's so rare. It's going to be hard to really put a price down on that. But scrolling down here, we're going to get to some more normal coin types. And you can see that with certain grades, they command ridiculous prices. Like here we've got a Constantine I Solidus that's hitting 40K pretty much. And it's not a particularly rare type, but you've kind of got that double effect of Constantine the Great and a mint state slab, and that brings out the big dollars.
Yeah, there is a nicer example of the same type. I believe it's the same reverse type, and the portrait on it is better, coming up at the upcoming CNG feature.
Yeah.
And currently the bid is at about 1/20th of that, and I think it's going to sell for probably about a fifth or less of that coin.
Yeah. I mean, that's just
and
ridiculous.
I would rather have the CNG example.
Let me see if I can pull that up, just so we can compare and show how these dies differ. I will put in Constantine. If my computer will load here. Yeah, here we go. Is this what you're talking about?
I think it's just
the pedigreed Constantine? Or
Yeah, you might actually have it. Yep. Sorry,
Yeah, I think,
bit of
yeah.
lag.
So we can pull this up. This is, I think we can say, a nicer coin. Let me pull up the other photos of the Constantine here. We can compare style, but I say if you even look at the hair is more finely executed. You got a better diadem. Not quite the exact same type, looking at the reverse, but close enough. I think there's an added Victoria here, or victory at the end. But I mean, the C&G example, once again, this is with pedigree. I'd say decent pedigree here, going back 3 or 4 decades at 9,000. It probably won't hit estimate or be close to it. So it'll end up, I'd guesstimate, selling for about half or less than half of this coin. But once again, what's the main difference here? One has a slab with mint state and one doesn't. And I've actually got an all-time favorite overpayment at Heritage. Let me see if I can find it. It is the most laughable coin I've ever seen sold. Actually embarrassing for whoever paid it. It is a Solidus of Leo the First, and I'd say it's here. Okay, this is awesome. We're going to click on this one too. That's pretty horrible as well. I might have already passed it. It was a gross overpayment. I think it was about 20,000. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Awesome. I mean, I just like to look at these listings and laugh. This is a Leo Solidus. He's a normal emperor. This is a common coin type. I mean, with late Roman solidi, there's probably, I mean, hard to estimate, but I'd say tens of thousands of these in existence right now. One of the more common coin types in existence. I mean, the Solidus is not hard to find. Leo is a common ruler. He minted an abundance of these issues. And looking at these dies, I'd say this is a poor style. Yeah, it's a nice strike. There's little to no wear, but I mean, it's not a nice example in terms of style. You can get a lot better busts, a lot more finely executed. I mean, there's nothing special about this coin besides the preservation state, but you can find much nicer examples elsewhere. It got a gem mint state attribution here from NGC, 5 out of 5 on strike and surface, which what does that even mean? And it sold for $21,600. I'd say my estimate, I couldn't see this hitting $1,000 at any other sale cracked open outside of that slab. It would not hit $1,000. C&G, NAC, wherever you want to go, I couldn't see a common Leo Solidus getting that much money.
But it's 5 out of 5.
Exactly, and that justifies it. But I think this kind of goes to show how gullible some people are. You rely on a slab and are willing to pay to the moon for that coin. But I mean, there's nothing special about this. It's got poor style. I'd say not even worth $1,000, and someone has paid 21 times that just because the slab says mint state. They rely on that grade in NGC population guides, which are incorrect, incomplete, and don't account for the millions of coins that aren't slabbed. But by using that faulty information and by sort of buying in this system, they're willing to overpay by 21 times. I think this one's quite laughable. I mean, there's nothing special about it. It is an extremely common coin type with poor dies that is not worn. Congratulations, there's probably 5 or 10 of these sold a month that are comparable that sell for less than $1,000, but someone here paid $21,000. And oops. Next up, we can look at this same situation. This is an Alexandria mint, so that's a bit rare. Okay, I thought that was a normal Justinian Solidus. Still, it's not worth that much money. That's probably worth closer to 3,000 or 4,000. But still, once again, you've got a semi-rare coin here, mint state, goes to the moon. But yeah, I mean, you can put in any coin type you want. Just scroll through NGC, and you're going to see tons of overpayments. Especially like these, the Justinian II coins are extremely common. They're the first coins have a portrait of Christ on them, which sort of brings out the biblical market. You've got a lot of scholars who not scholars, but people who are interested in the Bible, and they just want a coin of Christ, the first one, so they buy these. But I mean, these are so common, I'd estimate that there's probably 10 to 20 sold a month in auctions all across. I mean, it's a common coin type. This is not even, I would say, a super nice example, but NGC has graded it whatever they did. Choice mint state, star, what does that even mean?
5 out of 5 again.
I mean, look at this. Look at the reverse here. You can see the portrait of Justinian. Look at his nose. It's a flat strike. You can see his robes here. I mean, you've got dye clogging, dye rust. It's off-center. It's not that nice of an example. Like, sure, it's got a lot of detail, but if you're trying to go for a perfect example, it's not this coin. Scratched, clogged dyes.
Just trying to show us his chopped off nose.
Oh, exactly, yeah. There you go.
Makes it worth more.
That's funny. But yeah, I would just say, like, this is not even the finest dyes you can find. I mean, look at that hand on Christ. You can see, I mean, that's not very well executed. He's got a single finger stem that jets off in two. You can find much nicer examples. Yeah, it's not a good coin. but it was graded as having nice state of preservation, and therefore it sold for $20,000, which is just ridiculous. You can find a nicer one, I'd say, like pretty much a perfect example for about $3,000, $4,000 at auction, and that's for a perfect example. If you can take some flaws, you can probably get one for about $1,000 or $2,000.
I was going to say at the upcoming Kunker auction, there's one. It has a bit of wear, but it's in my opinion, a significantly nicer style, and I think the estimate on it is something like 500. It'll probably sell under
See
2,000.
if we can get that. Yeah. Go to Numis bids here. We can just see what's even available. I bet there's going to be a few. Oops. Justinian II. Solidus Christ. So I would say that one's not as nice, but you can see a lower estimate. At Elson, you've got some.
Better style.
Yeah, I would say, look at this. Look at the bust of Christ on that. If you're trying to go for the actual historically important aspect, this is a starting price of 900 euros, no bids yet. Compare that Christ to the one at Heritage. I mean, it's almost embarrassing to even compare those two. But of course, this one sold for 20,000, and the one at where is this? Jacquier. That's going to sell for, I'd probably guess, maybe 1,500 if that. But I would any day of the week rather have this coin than the one I just showed you. And I feel like that's almost not even a question of which one is nicer. And I mean, maybe that's just me, but I would prefer that bust of Christ. I think this coin is a lot more striking, and it grabs your attention much more than this coin does.
Oh, it's much nicer.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, like it doesn't have full legends. It's got some more issues. It's more double struck, but I think it's a better coin overall. I mean, I look at this coin and I think, man, that looks bad. Like, I understand it's a important coin type, numismatically important. It's the first bust of Christ on a coin, but I just think like he looks almost homeless, shaggy, sleep deprived, and the Emperor here looks kind of silly the way his face is done. I mean, whoever carved these dies, although I'd say for Byzantine it's pretty decent overall, there's not much artistic merit to them. Whereas this coin I think is quite striking, and I think that portrait could be transferred over to a Greek coin and be appreciated as much as in the Byzantine era. I think it really is well done, well executed. The reverse not so much, but I think, I mean, just for it has a certain je ne sais quoi, you might say, that Christ here, just, it captures your attention. I would say, like I said, I would rather have this coin over the other one. I'd gladly pay 1/20th at the fraction to get it.
I agree. It has a much more lifelike vibrancy to the portrait. It's hard to quantify, but it's as soon as you see it, you know it's nicer.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of goes to show, I mean, we didn't even go in the entire Numis Bids archive, but you can find nicer examples all throughout here. Look at this one at Roma. I mean, I think I still like the die at the Jacquier example better, but I would say this coin is nicer than the Heritage example.
Once again, I agree.
If you go between the two, and I mean, this is at 2,000 British pounds estimate. Maybe that's about 2,500 USD, but it's got no bids. So I'd be willing to say this goes for about a tenth, if not a 15th, of what this coin sold for. But because this coin was in a slab and it said mint state, someone paid an absurd amount for it. And I think just all of this to say that with ancient coins, what matters a lot more is the die and the actual artistic merit of the coin itself versus the preservation. Because these are hand-carved dies, you've got a lot of variation in how detailed the coin can be, and just how the coin even looks. And I think that, in my opinion, the actual state of the die and how much artistry it has is much more important than the state of preservation. I would much rather have this coin here with legends off flan and a weak strike with an amazing bust than I would this Heritage coin. Even though it's nicer on paper, it's got more legends, it's got a better grade, air quotes there. I just think it's a worse coin. It doesn't look nice, and I don't care that it's mint state. I would rather have the one that's not mint state and that looks significantly better. But yeah, I think that, I mean, that sort of maybe, I don't know if there's anything else you want to go into on slabs, that I feel like that sort of covers my thoughts at least, that my main issue with them is that ancient coins are not, I mean, they were made by hand, not by machine, so the actual artistry of the die matters a lot more than it does in modern coins or world coins. And the entire idea of having a modern grading system imposed on ancients just doesn't work. And the people that actually use it grossly overpay and are getting taken advantage of by companies like Heritage. I mean, maybe that's the wrong way to put it. Maybe not getting taken advantage of. I mean, a fool and his money are easily parted, but they're definitely overpaying.
Well, I think that's just the thing. Like, slabs are not useful for ancient coins. I think they're simply useful as a business vehicle for people who want to sell ancient coins to that segment of the market to get them interested in these coins. And obviously, as you said, to sell them for ridiculous amounts of money to those people who, again, the other thing is rarity and grade and preservation and age. So people see, oh, this thing is, 1,400 years old or 2,400 years old, and it's one of maybe 100 known, right? And it comes up twice a year in the marketplace. So that must mean if this was a modern coin, that would make it worth $100,000. So if I'm paying 20,000, I must be getting an amazing deal. And if no one else is paying that today, it's only a matter of time, right? So I think there's a bit of hype being created there, and people just assuming that the market behaves the same as the one that they're used to, assuming they're coming from the U.S. market or the world market.
Agreed.
Um,
I think too.
and
Or sorry, go ahead.
No, you're all right.
I was just going to say, I think too, they sort of lend a false air of credibility, and they easily sort of allow someone to think they know more about the ancient coin market than they do. When you have a slab system and a system of grades, you can sort of lie to yourself and say, like, I don't know the coins I'm buying, but I know the slab system, therefore I'll be safe in my purchases. But you can maybe easily overpay without knowing it, whereas if you don't use that slab infrastructure, that framework, you've actually got to learn the coin types yourself and understand the dies and the market. So I just feel like the people that don't use slabs end up actually sort of diving deeper in the ancient coin market, the literature, the academic work, and they actually come to a better understanding of these coins. And because they have that better understanding, they're not going to overpay as easily. Whereas those that use the slab market, it almost gives you an excuse not to go down and dive deep in academia and learn the types. So you can just say, well, this coin's mint state. Why do I care anything about the type? I know it's mint state. In my experience, mint state coins go for more. I'm going to pay more. But with that sort of mindset, you have a lack of knowledge that you sort of substitute with the grading system, and that allows you to easily overpay. Because when you don't know the types but you know the grades, you might think that, well, this coin is mint state, therefore I'm going to pay a few thousand because mint state in general means the coin is worth more. But if you'd known the type, you might have recognized, oh, this is a bad die, this is a bad example, this coin is a poor acquisition for reasons A, B, and C. But because you don't have that knowledge and you focus on the slabs, you're less educated, but you have a false sense of security.
Well, I think that's the thing. It's almost two diametrically opposed collecting mindsets or systems. One is wanting to collect, usually it's for the history or for the artistry, probably a mix of both for most people that I've spoken to. And the other one is, obviously there can be some of that as well, but a lot of the time it's simply like, oh, I want a coin in this grade, or I want to fill this set up. But it's not in the sense of a historical set, but it's like, I want these coins all in MS grade, right? So it's that just a completely different mindset often that accompanies collecting ancient coins versus collecting slab coins, whether they be ancient or modern. It's, I want to have every single mint in MS as opposed to I want to cover the period of the Roman Empire from, Tiberius up until Heraclius, for example.
Yeah, I think too, like you mentioned, I think that slabs almost encourage the idea to collect broadly and not narrowly. I feel like the people I see that collect the slabs, they tend to have sort of a holistic view of the industry, which I don't think is necessarily bad, but they tend to just collect at a surface level. I'm going to buy an Aurelian coin. I don't care what it is, what the reverse type is, where the mint is. I just want a coin of Aurelian. I want a coin of Marcus Aurelius. I want a coin of Nero. I want a coin of Augustus. They sort of collect superficially, and the slabs allow them to sort of navigate those waters without knowing the types. I'm going to buy an Augustus. I know that AU and mint state means the coin is nice. I don't care about style. I don't know the dies. I don't know what's artistically fine and what's not. I'm just going to buy a mint state coin and think that that's going to be a good example, even though it may not be. Whereas those coin collectors who don't use slabs, I feel like they tend to dive deeper and focus in one area and sort of actually dive underneath that surface level and collect with a quasi-academic feel to them. Because a lot of these coin types, when you actually dive deep into an industry, they're not slabbed often. So I feel like when you collect at the slab, because so few ancients are slabbed, you're almost limited to a certain surface level because you can't get coin slabbed once you sort of get in the weeds.
Well,
at least in my experience, I'd say like a lot of the coins I collect, I've never even seen slabbed. So I couldn't even do that. If I wanted to collect slabbed, it would be impossible for me.
I think it sort of reinforces itself where the coins that you want to market are those broad types that appeal to people. Oh, you want a coin of Athens? Here's an Athenian tetradrachm. A coin of Alexander the Great? Here's a grossly overpriced dram or tetradrachm. Here's a coin of Julius Caesar or Augustus, right? So it's these very broad surface level types, and those are easily commoditized. Because you can easily market it as, oh, here is coin of X person who is famous and interesting. You don't need to know any more than that. Come and buy it from me for 5 times what it would sell for anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think I guess one of my only issues there too with the slab industry, I feel like a lot of times people tend to have, like I mentioned earlier, that false sense of knowledge about coins that come with a grade. I just like in my experience, it's been sort of a negative on the coin collecting field, where someone who doesn't know what they're talking about will come in and say, "Well, my coin is mint state. Like the advice you're giving me on if I overpaid or not, I don't care because I trust the grade more than I trust the people who are in the industry." So I think a lot of that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. On a personal note, beyond all the legitimate criticisms of slabs, I feel like it almost encourages, in a more personal sense, people to just not heed advice of, I would say, experts in the industry and just sort of go their own way about it.
Yeah, anecdotally, I've seen the same with people online. They just repeat what's on the slab. Like, this is a coin of X emperor made during, the entire reign, their reign as the dates, and they just quote what's on the reverse, and they're like, this is because, and then they just make up whatever they feel like, because the
Yeah,
slab usually doesn't come with any more information than that.
yeah, and I think too, I don't blame the people who promote slabs in the sense of the companies, but I do think the culture that is built around it in ancients is a net negative. And what I mean by that is I don't think the people who started the slab industry necessarily meant for it to become a way to sort of bypass knowledge in the industry. I feel like in some ways slabbing ancient started as a method to try to get new collectors in the ancient field and sort of transition from U.S. collecting and world collecting into ancients. But I feel like it's almost become its own sort of subset of what I would call ignorant collecting, where you don't have to learn the industry, you don't have to learn the academic literature, you don't learn your types, you learn the grades. And I feel like that almost, you're not even collecting ancients at that point, you're just collecting the slab.
Well, I agree, and I think it comes back to it's turned it from here's this easy entry point, this set of training wheels, if you will, where you can collect these common types and you don't have to worry about being burned maybe for hundreds of dollars or more on a fake. And you can get your, feet in the water and figure out how to collect ancients. Instead, it's become, oh, here's this new commodity you can speculate on, and you can, instead of stacking silver, why don't you stack Alexander tetragrams from
Exactly.
MS-505?
That irritates me too. I see people who invest in ancient coins, and I think that's a little silly. I mean, it's a conduit of wealth for sure. You buy a coin at a certain amount, and you're liable to sell it again at a certain amount. But it's not something you should actually invest your money in. There's no market you can ride. You can buy a coin and sell it later to make money, but I wouldn't call it investing in people who actually try to secure their future in things like bullion, coins, or collectibles. I think that's quite silly and irresponsible.
Well, I think as with most things in life, you get out what you put in. So, ironically, if you want to invest in ancient coins, you're probably going to lose a lot of money. I think Heritage had a sale earlier this year where the collector bought most of his coins for tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year prior, and then he sold for about 50% across the board less than 12 months later. So you could invest that way, but ironically, most of the people that you see actually return a profit on what they paid are the people that painstakingly put together a collection. They're collectors primarily. Sometimes, often,
Exactly.
they're academics and they publish their coins and they have a very
That's
academic
the key, though.
focus on what
It,
they're collecting.
it's the
And then
academic
they make
lens.
money, but that's not what they're doing it for.
Yeah, it's through the academic lens that they can find rarities and unpublished examples, and through the time they put in to actually learn the coin types and not the grades, but the actual academic literature. Uh, that is what allows them to find actual deals and build a holistic collection that then adds value. Because you spent a lifetime assembling certain coins, you have the knowledge to identify and lay it out and catalog it. That together is what actually adds value to a collection and might allow you to actually make money in the future. But if you're coming in with the mindset of I'm going to buy to sell later for more money, I just think that's the wrong way to go about it, and it's almost impossible. I mean, with ancient coins at auction, part of it is luck. Do the bidders turn out? I mean, there's plenty of examples you can go online and see. On this month, someone overpaid for an example by $500. On this month, an example sold for $600 less than it should have. I just think sometimes it really matters, like what do the buyers feel like? Is it a hot market or a cold market? And you can't always predict that. So if you're going in with the assumption that I'm going to make money on a coin, you're doing it wrong. But if you over time are smart about your purchases and always buy a good deal and don't overpay, the odds are you're going to make money or at least break about even.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a function of how dedicated you are and the time and effort and knowledge you put into it is usually what you get out of it.
Yeah, I think this has been a very productive discussion. And next episode, what we're going to do is a common argument for slabs is that the slabs protect your coin, which I think, while it's somewhat valid, there's limitations there. So we're going to go in an in-depth discussion on how to protect your coins, the materials out there, what you can do. Do you want to use flips, slabs? Do you want to use cabinets, trays? We're going to kind of go into the collecting side and how you can safely store your own ancient coins to make sure there's no damage over time. But Antoine, I'd like to thank you for coming on and discussing this with me.
Concept, if we can do that.
Yeah, no, please do. Yeah.
I think we might have glossed over that one.
The protection aspects?
No, like, are they real or not? Like, you can only get a real ancient coin if you buy it slab.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's silly. That's so silly. I mean, I'm going to say, how long have ancient coins been around? I mean, from the oldest, about 3,000 years. Well, guess what? Slabs have been around for, what, 50? So you can only buy a real coin in slabs, even though ancient coins have been around for about 2,900 years before slabs.
There have been documented collections since the Renaissance, the 1400s.
Yeah. Even older. I mean, you can see, like, Augustus collected ancient coins. The Empress Theodora in Byzantium was famous for it. She had her own custom bronze-made cabinet where she would store coins, and a good way to get in her graces was to find an ancient coin and present it as a gift. So you can see monarchs throughout history have collected coins, and they didn't use slabs. Because, I mean, once again, the question is, if you learn the actual material in the academia, you have the knowledge to be able to see what is a real coin and what is not. When you substitute that for a slab, like, yeah, you might have to rely on a slab to see what's real or not, but it's only because you didn't put the time in to actually learn the field.
I think the other really important factor to remember is the people slabbing, the people authenticating at NGC. I believe there's 2 industry professionals that do it for ancients. And out of those people, they're well respected, they've got experience, but they're no different than the people that have been doing the exact same thing for just as long at the major auction houses.
Agreed.
Across Europe and the US, like CNG, NAC, Kunker, Nomos, all these other auction houses employ people who do the exact same thing and are equally authoritative, sometimes more so, on those subjects and on the authenticity of the coins.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting a greater degree of authenticity because, again, there's no guarantee provided with the slab the way they would with the modern. It's them saying this is our best guess that this is real, which you get that every single time you bid at any reputable auction house ever.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, that's no disrespect meant to the people at NGC, but they've got the amount of expertise as do people in every other auction house, more or less. The large ones, at least. Yeah, I agree. I don't think slabs are a good way to determine authenticity. I mean, in general, I think you can trust slabs, but I think sort of maybe the more niche you go, the less I would trust what NGC has to say. If you're buying, I mean, even so, I've seen like Adrian, he's on the podcast sometimes. He's found fake dies of Alexander the Great tetradrams in NGC slabs, and he's proven it through the same die being used, the same casting process, and he's found multiple tetradrams that are fake that are in NGC slabs. I'll see if I can't find a way to include that, a visual reference when I edit this video. But that kind of the point being there, that's a very common type that most people in the industry would know. They would kind of know the basics about, but even then, slabs are not perfect, and fakes do slip in.
And it happens across price points. I think one of the first ones that came to my attention was, also Adrian pointed it out, it was a Trifon fake that was sold a few years ago at, I think it was Stacks, and it was slab.
Oh, I remember that, yeah. Yeah, agreed. Well, even look at the Idmar Arius at Roma. I mean, there were some serious questions about the pedigree. It looked like it was possibly bogus. There were questions about the coin's authenticity, but it was slabbed anyway.
Well, and going back to the pricing structure of the slabbing fee, I think this is important to note. If you go back there, the cost of slabbing increases as the price of the coin increases, the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a $5 million coin, I'd assume they took quite a bit of money to slab that.
Yeah, it would be
their name
$400 plus 2% of the full market value, which is ridiculous.
So clearly an incentive there.
Yeah, to actually authorize and authenticate a coin, even though it may be fake. You can imagine that Idmar Arius, I mean, what does it look like? They would have gotten what would it be, $50,000 full market value roughly based on my math for the total hammer of Roma? Somewhere around that neighborhood if these were the terms
Around
agreed to.
4 million, so 80,000.
Was it 4 million? I thought it was closer to 2. Maybe 2 million pounds, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, but either way,
2.4 and then plus buyers in pounds, yeah, around 3 million pounds at the end of the day.
that would be one heck of an incentive for a possibly dubious coin to go ahead and stamp approval and get your $80,000 paycheck. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot of problems with slabs, and I think that the intention when it first came about was good, but the way it's played out in the current slab market is just antithetical to what I think ancient coin collecting should be. I think it's foolish in many ways, allows for overpayment, and it allows for a lack of knowledge in the field you want to collect. And I think for me at least, ancient coin collecting should be academic. I think that's what makes it so enjoyable to me at least. I can find a coin type, I can study the series, I can study the history and all that coming together through the ancient coins that I possess. That's what I like about it, that's what I enjoy. And I think that as far as collecting goes, it's probably just about the most academic means through which you can collect. I mean, you can learn history, you can publish articles, you can do all sorts of things, whereas other collectibles like baseball cards, and there's no academic side to that, or even something like a Funko Pop, you're just wasting money on plastic and paper. There's no actual value behind it, whereas I think ancient coins, that history and the way to sort of legitimize yourself through academia allows for, I would say, a higher level of collecting, and slabs threaten that.
I agree. I feel like the price increases that have been driven by slabs in some cases are a nuisance, but that's the sort of thing that could happen anywhere, more people get into the market, whatever. But the ignorance is really what irks me. It's just quite annoying to see people treating it like, yeah, like baseball cards or comic books, where you need to know almost nothing about it. There is nothing to it beyond the object itself. There's no backstory, no history, no, like, I guess just what does this tell us about the society that made it? There's none of that going on. And that irks me quite a bit, is the amount of ignorance that it allows for.
And especially that combined with the arrogance. It's ignorant arrogance, and that's the worst kind of arrogance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think with that we can go ahead and conclude the episode, and we will be back soon discussing proper ways to store your coins. We can touch on slabs a bit more then about the actual protection aspect, but I think this was a good holistic overview on slabs and why, although I think there were maybe legitimate reasons to start slabbing as an industry, the way it's played out has just it's been a net negative, and I don't think the current slab market is in any way beneficial to ancient coins. And I hope that our video today, our discussion, has been educational and that we've been able to sort of highlight why slabbing can be detrimental to a collector and how it can hurt the industry as a whole. Also, I'd like to thank you, Antoine, for coming on, taking the time out of your Saturday to discuss with me, talk about ancient coins. I appreciate it. Your insight is always valued, and I'm very appreciative for you coming on.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, and we will see you all soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm your host, Sam. Adios.